Hey, welcome back to the Grace and Truth series. We're on week 4. That means we're beyond the 50% point of this study. And it's just been exciting to watch God transform lives. And more than even the spiritual dynamics of a group like this, but just to watch the community and watch the conversations that are happening. I'm so convinced that we all need one another. When you look at the New Testament church, it was a one another church. They prayed for one another. They honored one another. They encouraged one another. And to watch that happen during this study and during this time together has been just amazing. Now this week, we're going to be talking about John 8. You're going to be reading that in your group. And it's going to be a phenomenal story for you to read. Trust me, this story may create more conversation than any one of the other 6 sessions together. But let me frame this story with a very personal story that just recently happened in my life. Just recently, I received news of really somebody in my life that I would consider a spiritual father, a pillar in my life. And I received news that he fell. And I want to tell you, getting that news just broke my heart. Because this is someone that I love dearly, someone that I respect. And I was asked to be a part of the conversation to see him restored. I remember when he walked in the room and just seeing him for the first time, my heart broke. I wanted to stand and just hug him and tell him how much I loved him and how much I respected him. At the same time, had to figure out how to walk through the reality, the truth of the situation. And I've been on the journey with this individual, this leader of my life that I love and respect so dearly. But it's been interesting to me, and this is just really honest confession, to watch how people respond when someone falls, when someone sins. It's really when it's tested. Do we believe in grace? Do we believe in truth? How does that dynamic happen? And I want to be honest with you. Often when someone falls, and perhaps you're thinking of somebody that have fallen, has sinned, oftentimes it's just easy to become judgmental. It's easy to point fingers. That's just our natural reaction. And sometimes we even spiritualize that reaction to, well, this is the way that they should have. And it's almost becomes a cynical, judgmental reaction to when somebody actually falls and sins. And I want to tell you, going through this story has reminded me that I want to be a person that lives out life the way Jesus did. I want to respond to fallen people and to when people don't match up to the standard of Christianity exactly the way Jesus did. So the big idea before we jump into John 8 together, the big idea for this session is this: grace and truth people, they walk with a certain amount of humility. They walk with humility, not arrogance. They understand that they are sinners and they're only saved by the grace of God. And as I watch my friend and help walk him through the process of restoration, I've been reminded often people get cynical. And the reason why we become cynical is because we forget that I'm a sinner. We forget that all of us are sinners saved by the grace of God. It's not by our own works that we're saved, but it's by the grace of God. And when we approach people that have fallen or people that need grace and truth, unless we live with this humility, that we are all sinners. I'm the chief among the sinners, Paul said. We will become judgmental and critical. Now, the story of John 8, I just want to encourage you as a group to read it, enjoy it. It's a phenomenal story. Here's what's going on, is that Jesus was teaching, and the teachers of the law brought in to Jesus, think about this, a woman caught in adultery. They brought this lady to Jesus, and they made her stand before the group. Now, let's pause there. Everything about this story is wrong at this moment. First of all, I want to know, how did they catch the woman caught in adultery? Number one. The second thing I want to know is, where's the man? And number 3, why in the world are you making this lady stand before the group? Why? And what's going on is grace and truth is being tested here. They're trying to trick Jesus. And they said to Jesus this in verse 4, they said, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Again, how did they catch her? Another story. You can talk about that in your group. And then they start saying this: here's the truth. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. Moses said, stone her. Then they look at Jesus. Now what do you say? Grace and truth tested. Here's the truth. The Pharisees, they were right. This woman was caught in the act of adultery. She did deserve to be stoned to death according to the law. And they look at Jesus and they go, okay, Jesus, what do you have to say about that? Well, how do you respond to that? Boy, this is going to be a great conversation in your group. How do you respond to that? And then what happens, Jesus, you'll read it there in your group. He bends down, writes something on the sand. You could talk about that. And he looks at the crowd and he says a profound statement. And here's the statement Jesus said. He says, let any of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Here's what Jesus said. Any of you, you're without sin, throw the stone. See, grace and truth people, they live with this understanding that we are all sinners. We all need God's grace in our life. And then when I deal with somebody else, when I deal with someone else that is struggling, I do it with humility. I do it with a sense of godliness. I don't do it with a judgmental, critical eye. When you read the story, you'll see that the oldest people in the group, they left first because they had the wisdom. They knew that we're all sinners. And you can see how the story ends there. But I love how Jesus responds to this woman caught in adultery. After everyone leaves, Jesus says to her, neither do I condemn you. He says, I'm not going to condemn you, but then Jesus says, go now and leave your life of sin. See, grace and truth people, they have this understanding, first of all, that they are sinners saved by the grace of God. They walk with humility as they talk with people. And at the end of the day, they go, there's no condemnation here. You're forgiven because of grace. And at the end of the day, go, now leave your life of sin and follow Jesus. John 8, an absolutely beautiful picture, perhaps of all the lessons we're going to look at, a beautiful picture of how to walk with grace and truth, how to be people that live that dynamic out in our lives. What would happen if the church caught this? What would happen if we stopped being people that were cynical and judgmental, but that we would show people this lady caught in adultery? We would show her that Jesus is the answer and Jesus could set her free. I wonder in your own life, when you read John 8, try to think about who are you in this story? Are you like the Pharisees? Perhaps you're that person in sin, caught in sin. Or does your attitude best reflect the attitude of Jesus? As you read this text, enjoy it. Get into the emotions. Think about the testing moment that Jesus had here. Think about all that's at stake. Think about the woman caught in adultery, her humility, her being humiliated before people, and Jesus setting her free. Think about it as you read this text. I want to continue, and I want you to know I continue to pray for you and your group, that you will find just people that you can have good conversation with, people that you experience community, people that together we will learn to live for Jesus and live for Jesus together. People that we can pray with, people that we can have honest conversation. I pray that all of us would become the church, that when we see people that are caught in the act of sin, we would respond with grace and truth. Enjoy your group as you read through John 8. Enjoy the conversation around this text.